From the moment we all stood in endless queues to cast our votes and shake off the shackles of close to 400 years of colonization in various forms, to where visitors to South Africa will also struggle to pronounce place names, just like we have to when we go and visit overseas countries.
I feel honored to have been assigned the task of presenting to you the purpose and objective of this capacity building workshop. During the previous years, the South African Geographical Names Council and the Department of Arts and Culture have convened a number of workshops on geographical names. The main objective was to forge common understanding of public participation and consultation on standardization of geographical names.
In my remarks, I just want to talk about the issue of transformation and standardization of geographic names, features, which has become a topical and emotive issue that is currently dominating the social and political discourse in South Africa. The standardization and transformation processes are essential in the country that seeks to redress the past imbalances that were imposed by 100 years, more than 100 years, of course, of colonialism and apartheid. One of the outcomes of that process was, therefore, we had, after 1994, the process of the Truth Commission. And one of the recommendations of the Truth Commission was that the issue of symbolic reparation, in which the building of new museums, monuments, and memorials, as well as renaming of geographical features, should feature prominently in the transformation of the country. And the other side of it was to ensure that names that are oppressive, are insulting, names that distort our history, names that are basically celebrating the inhuman treatment that we got from apartheid.
Place names is a fundamental part of nation states, because nation states are based on an idea. Any nation state, therefore, has to have a public script that continues to remind its citizenry of the foundational values upon which it is founded. We don't only want to preserve the heritage, to remind ourselves of our past, but also to protect the future. Because this heritage essentially is who we are. We need to be careful in how we select people to honor. Because ours is a very progressive, we have chosen to be a progressive society.
Okay, opportunity for questions.
My question would be, first and foremost, what informs this universal identity? What are the social, cultural aspects and dynamics that impacts on that universal identity? Is ethnicity not one of those factors that needs to find space within that universal identity?
True, Dr. Mlekiana. Now, if you talk of progressives and conservatives, that has to relate to the mandate of where we are in terms of our national democratic revolution, or in terms of our national transformative agenda. Also juxtaposing it with the processes that we had prior to the current administration, or the policies that we had prior to the current administration and the current administration. Thank you so much.
On the first point is that the nationalist movement has always been defined by a battle of primarily two ideas: conservatism, modernity, and tradition. Nationalism was formed by African intellectuals of a hybrid orientation. Amazemtete, the exempted ones, they were called in Natal because they were civilized and educated. These are people who saw as their mission to modernize.
Please just get me through that, Wuti. What is it that we can do? The medicine that we can actually also take over the Department of Education or our education system into this nation building.
The 95 election, for instance, the zoning of municipalities and everything else continued as if nothing happened. primarily because they wanted to resist the encroachment of national government into their own schools and their own communities, to defend their own cultural identity. So the school thing, Petra, it's not a new thing. It's a defense of their own identity, their own culture.
Now my question is, how are we going to go to commissions? Are we really going to come up with fruitful things in terms of changing the dimension and complex of the South African geographical name?
I just want to check whether Doctor is aware of the fact that the changing of place names is actually the occurrence of historical, cultural, social, and of course, political environment.
The names that you select, the names that people suggest, are an articulation of how they see themselves. These are local identities that individually coalesce to become a national identity. We shouldn't underestimate the articulation of those local identities in those little spaces. Those names are a suggestion of how people perceive themselves. And how you win the debate over national identity depends on how you deal with those little spaces.
Name change should be a game changer for nation building and national identity and social cohesion. It should be. And as we gathered in these walls, we should admit that very little progress has been made as far as this very sensitive, provocative, very important program is concerned. Very little progress has been made. Simply, social cohesion says nothing for the people without the people, including changing the names of our streets. A lot of work has been done in the last 20 years, and it's unfortunate that government knows what it has done, but the people don't know what government has done. We are in the process of arranging for a report back summit that should take place this year as part of the 20th anniversary celebrations in September, where we, as a country, look back and gauge what progress has been done to build the nation and to promote social cohesion. And of course, the issue of names will come into play.
How do we then reconcile that with the view that says the change might have to happen in the national interest? Because I think this is where I think I come from. I believe that national interest should also prevail over sectoral interests.
My bit of worry is on the basis that name change is a process. And throughout that process, there are issues, there are challenges, there are investigations, there's research, and there's documentation. And documentation precisely is documented for the purpose of further engagement with society.
I'll agree that I've been in government for 8 years. The wheels move, but they move very slowly. They move very slowly for some reason. Probably it's because of processes. You'll find that if you're doing a submission where I work, it could take up to 3 months for it to be signed, which is very unfortunate because it's something that could be done in 3 days. Need 15 people to put their signatures there.
We were also worried to say we have names that are not correctly spelled in our area. We still not have the names that are comfortable in our area. For an example, we can't have a place that is called Houtkop. To me, Hotkop is an insult. So we need to do away with such names.
We spoke of the lack of interaction amongst racial groupings. But still we are building houses as determined in the old apartheid geographical demarcations. We build houses in the so-called colored areas, we build houses in the so-called townships. We don't build integrated settlements in one area to ensure that people live and have their existence in one area. So I want to make this point. As government, we don't have to be apologetic. We need to put in those programs and engineer the process.
When it comes to housing, it's a fact that the new mushrooming settlements are not as integrated as we would like them to be. And of course, there is a whole lot of new suburbs and other places that are coming up. And of course, they are built along racial lines, unfortunately. And you look at the architecture, and you look at the street names, you look at the mall names, they're not reflecting the country. And of course, we must admit that perhaps people are largely indifferent to these things, crucial and pivotal as they are to national identity and nation building.
I've heard from your presentation to say we need to wait for signatures of about 15 names. I'm expecting perhaps after this workshop to have names that have been changed, the wrong name spelled, that the MEC perhaps signed, and the committee to say, yes, SCDBang, we agree that you can change Hotkop to David Nokwe, or whoever that we want to change the name to.
In my view, there's still a lot that needs to be done. We have a long way to go. But my question is, how will we know that we are there?
When will this maybe come to an end? I think let's be clear that social cohesion is not a destination. It's more of a journey. It's more of a journey. And I think because we are human beings, many of the problems that we live with today will remain in this country for a very long time. However, there are a lot of advances that are happening, taking place in terms of social cohesion in this country.
So we can't blame the geographical name per se, that is very slow. Because there are people who are supposed to make sure that things are moving very fast. I think most of the people maybe that we have, they might be too relaxed. So it's important that the people that are given responsibility, they don't tell us things can take 5 months or something. If something can be signed, let it be signed. As long as the communities have been engaged and a member of communities are happy about it, I think they should be able to be resolved. Thank you, Comrade Chair.
That's why I keep on repeating that everything that happens in our society is a direct result of what we do or we don't do. We can't look beyond ourselves for the problems that exist. The resources are there, but things are not moving as fast as they should. I hope I don't come across as political and too harsh. I'm just trying to answer questions here.
We have had a lot of consultation that was being discussed today here. So in all the documentation, the Act, the Constitution, consultation has not been spelled out clearly as to how long should consultation be or who should be consulted. And that remains a question.
In conclusion, I want to say when it comes to social cohesion or name changes, nothing should happen according to the principles without the people. Nothing happens for the people without the people of that specific community. It's very important to be guided by those principles, follow the law, and consult, and consult. Thank you very much. Ngiyabonga. Ke lebogile.